Welcome to the True Curiosity Podcast. The conversation you're about to experience is with Reverend Dr. Matthew Rutherford Boulter, and we will be talking about his all-time favorite movie, Fight Club. Father Matt has an impressive academic background that includes a Master's of Divinity from the Westminster Theological Seminary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and a philosophy doctorate from Maynooth University in Ireland. He has been the Associate Rector of Christ Church Episcopal in Tyler, Texas for 11 years, has taught several courses of philosophy at the University of Texas at Tyler, and recently published his first book entitled Repetition and Mythos, Ratzinger's Bonaventure and the Meaning of History. To learn more about Father Matt, you can visit covenant.livingchurch.org/author/Matt-Boulter, where you will find his personal blog and a brief introduction detailing his hobbies, namely reading, running, drinking, smoking, and hanging out with his 3 brown-eyed girls. Please enjoy the conversation with my dear friend and mentor, Father Matt. Thank you. So, anyways, man, thanks for doing this.
It's a joy.
How many times have you watched Fight Club?
I mean, probably 20, but probably only once in the last 5 years. And it was with my 14-year-old.
Once in the last 5 years?
Yeah.
I actually watched it when I was very young, too. The first time. I was like maybe 12, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
It holds up pretty well, I think.
It does what?
It holds up pretty well.
Oh, what do you mean with that?
It still works. It still seems relevant. It still makes sense. It hits like it did 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, the second time I watched it, I liked it more than the first one. And this last time, I liked it more than all the other times.
All right, cool. So you've seen it 3 times.
I think 4 or 3.
And that's how good art always is. With good art, you shouldn't be able to appreciate it / understand it / wrap your mind around it the first time you experience it. No, you got to keep coming back.
Yes. I mean that could be said about every good book. That's what people come back to.
Paintings,
paintings,
poems,
songs, right?
Everything.
Yeah. Okay.
All art.
Yeah. All right. Well, I need to clear out some thoughts in my head because I want to talk a little bit about Fight Club. I mean, I want to talk about Fight Club, but I also want us to see. I have this interest in understanding these events we've talked about before. Like you told me when you were took a class of philosophy in Austin, I think.
Okay.
Or Dallas, somewhere. You felt like you were walking the moon for a week.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Just things out of this world or reality that we think we know.
Yeah.
And Blaine is familiar with this, and I don't know a lot of people who talk openly about this kind of events.
Okay.
So, and I'm deeply attracted to understanding more and more about them. I have to say I think I've experienced them more than I wanted to.
Okay.
Anyways, this is again, I'm just clearing things out of the way to make sure I'm in the right path.
Yeah.
How do you lose your hearing on your right ear?
2 things happened. Number 1, when I was 2 years old, I fell out of my high chair and fell out of the high chair, crashed on the ground,
Uh-huh.
and hit my right ear on the floor, and it was bleeding.
Oh.
And my parents had to take me to the hospital, and after that, I was partially deaf in my right ear.
Ah.
Then, fast forward to when I was in the 6th grade, is that maybe 10 years old, something like that?
Yeah.
I got spinal meningitis.
Uh-huh.
Meningitis.
Yeah, is that, I don't know what that is precisely. How does it feel?
It's a disease of the brain. The meninges are tissues that surround the brain. And so I don't know much about it, and it's not relevant, but it's very bad. It's a brain disease. It's like a nervous system type disease.
Yeah.
And I was in a coma for 2 weeks,
Wow.
and the doctors told my parents that I was definitely going to die.
Ah.
And the only thing that happened is that I have delayed visual reactions, which don't matter.
You mean right now?
Yeah, but it's like a nanosecond. You know what I mean? Like basically it means that I can't be an airline pilot. But in the everyday world, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But I'm also
I think
partial.
most people are like that because most people don't sleep well.
Yeah, I'm also partial. And the only other thing is that I was partially deaf in my right ear.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
On your
I became
good ear.
completely deaf in the same ear. So before I had spinal meningitis, I was partially deaf. After that, I became completely deaf.
Okay. Okay. And what happened is that then you just became. Okay, so you were fully deaf in one ear and partly deaf in the other one?
No.
Sorry, I got it wrong.
So before I had spinal meningitis, I was partially deaf.
And then full.
Correct.
Deaf. Okay, but the other one works well.
Yep.
Okay, man, I didn't know that. Do they know why this happened? Like spinal meningitis at all?
There's two kinds of spinal meningitis. There's the viral kind and the bacterial kind. I think that the viral kind is worse, and that's the one that I had. But I don't really know much more about it than that.
You're kind of like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, good to know.
I will say this. So, one of my favorite theologians is Rowan Williams.
Yeah.
He happens to be the former Archbishop of Canterbury.
Okay.
But he's amazing. And I learned, in 2007, I was looking into doing PhD programs in England, in the UK.
Yeah.
And I went and visited 3 different scholars. One of them was John Milbank, who's one of my intellectual heroes. And he was very kind. He took me, we had a couple of beers at the pub, and then he gave me a tour of his church. Mm-hmm. And it was, when we were walking down the street, I kept making sure that I was on his right side so that I could hear him out of my good ear.
Yeah.
And he said, well, how did you become deaf in that ear? And I told him the story about spinal meningitis.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, did you know that Rowan Williams is also deaf in his right ear? And I said, no, I didn't know that. And he said, do you know how he became deaf in his right ear? No, I said. And he said, spinal meningitis when he was a boy. So it's the very same.
Yeah. And does it happen to most people that get spinal meningitis and don't die?
I do not know.
You have no idea. Okay, that should be interesting to know, or maybe it's just a beautiful coincidence, or just a coincidence. But that's funny, right? Like,
yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, that's why I asked you. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just felt like it was more to it than just like, oh, I was born with a defect,
yeah,
or whatever. But okay, now talking about Fight Club more seriously now, what do you like this movie in one sentence, maybe? Like, I know it's hard. We're going to keep talking about it for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't thought about it very much in many years. There's so much, it's hard to put it in one sentence, but I would probably have to say that the protagonist, what I love about it is that the protagonist is radically countercultural.
Tyler Durden? Or, I mean, it's kind of like the same guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, along with so many other aspects, for me, are clearly deeply Christian. So that's it. That if I had to say one sentence, that would be it.
Okay, okay. Deeply Christian.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. Okay.
I mean, I can give you two examples right now,
Mm-hmm.
or three, at least three right now.
Yeah.
One is
Please.
Tyler Durden says, first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club.
First and second rule is the same.
Well,
yeah.
Jesus says the same thing over and over again. He tells his disciples, don't tell anyone what's going on here. Jesus says that over and over to his disciples. That's one thing. Here's another thing.
That's a big thing.
It is.
Yeah.
But they're all big.
Okay.
Fight Club itself is like the church.
Okay.
Because it's a community of friends who are willing to die for this thing that they've discovered.
Yeah.
And it binds them together in unity and separates them from the external world. That's exactly like the church.
And it's interesting. Tyler says, or his name is Jack, right? I think his name is Jack. His actual name.
I don't think he has an actual name. I mean, at some point he's okay.
He talks himself. He never says I'm Jack. He says I'm Jack's organ.
Right.
So we're gonna assume he's Jack.
Okay. Well. Okay. Cool.
Just to not give it a name.
Jack Cornelius, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah. Right. So, anyways, this guy, the narrator, is saying that Fight Club was the reason you would cut your nails.
That's right.
And groom your hair or something
That's
like
right.
that. And work out.
That's right.
Right. It's like a reason to kind of like do good things.
It's the reason you get out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
It's the reason you do everything.
Yeah,
that's the Christian life.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
And, that's very interesting because the fact you say that, the fact we're saying this, the fact that you said once a while ago that even Durden has a God, right? You said it before that even Tyler Durden has a God.
Yes.
I think you said that.
Okay. I probably.
Okay. And
I think everyone has a God. I think
yes.
It's literally impossible not to have a God.
Correct. You know what's so interesting is that you're not saying God, you're saying a God.
Yeah.
And in my involvement with Christianity, I've seen this, that in the Bible or just in the liturgy, people refer to, and they kind of say expressions like this. The God of Jacob, the God of David, the God of
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
So
yes.
What is so interesting to me is like, does this mean that God can be described as plainly, if that's the right word, plainly as the thing you give the most value to?
So let's back up a little bit. I think that whenever the Bible and the liturgy talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or the God of Israel, what's going on there? So what's going on there is primarily that this God, the one being talked about there, is local. It's also the God of Israel. Did I already say that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, in the world of the Old Testament, and in lots of other worlds, lots of other cultures, each tribe or people group has a God. Well, Israel also has a God, just like the Akkadians do, and just like the Amalekites do, and just like the Philistines do, just like the Egyptians do. It's just that their God, according to the Bible, is the one true God. But that doesn't mean that it's not a local
Whose God is the one
Israel's.
true? Israel's.
But see, that doesn't mean that it's not a local tribal deity. So I'm just trying to say that when it comes to this other question that you're asking about Tyler Durden has a God. Father Matt, are you saying that like we get, like there's something about reality such that not only must we have a God, but when we worship something and treat it as God, that are you saying that that becomes the one true God, Father Matt? I'm not saying that, simply. But see, that's different from this question about locality and tribe.
Yes,
That's my first point.
that's it's very interesting to me is that it seems like even Christianity seems to agree with the idea that I don't want to say this, but I have to. Not everybody has the same God.
Absolutely.
And
Christianity does agree with that.
Okay, that not everybody. Okay,
Now,
this is very funny.
it's complicated though.
Yes.
There's all sorts of things that Christianity does not mean when it says that.
Correct. It doesn't mean that. It's funny because it's like what let's rephrase it. Maybe what they're trying to say when they say everybody has their God is kind of like everybody has like a different perception of this God.
Maybe. Or maybe the point is simply that everyone worships something.
Yes, yes.
And so what does that mean? What does it mean to worship something?
To give the most value to something.
Yeah. To be motivated by that thing.
To wake up, yes. To wake up for that thing. Okay. And I believe the idea too is like, well, with faith we can expect that these things that we all worship are somehow related
to the one true God,
to something that is just that we all want,
that is to something that is ultimate,
right?
Absolutely, yes.
That we all want. Okay.
Well, so the notion that we all want,
yeah,
the one true God of Christianity, let's just say, I'm going to say the Father of Jesus Christ, or you could say the God of Israel. The notion that everyone wants that God, I do agree with that, but that's a bold claim.
Okay, but if it's the one true God, then it will be good for everybody. I mean, if it appeared, if it came to earth, no one would dislike.
But you didn't. So those are two different things, right? It's different for God to be good for everyone on the one hand, and for everyone to desire or want that God on the other. Those are two different things.
Okay.
And I think the more interesting thing that we're talking about right now is it the case that everyone wants the one true God, that everyone desires the one true God? That's a really good question.
Okay.
And lots of people in the history of the church, like St. Augustine, would say yes.
But right, in the idea that there's one God, that there's one true God, to me that means to some degree that everybody, like you said, has their own God, has a God, and that even if it's just a little, that personal God is connected to the true God.
Yeah, I think that people like Augustine would agree with that.
Okay.
That even if we're worshiping, there's only one true God, but like whenever Donald Trump worships power, he's actually, the thing that he really wants is the one true God. And so as Donald Trump worships power, or as Edmund in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe worships Turkish delight or pleasure, the reason they're worshiping those things is because they do have a desire for the one true God. Yeah, I think that people like Augustine would agree with that.
Right, that's what I told you the other day about everybody has good intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the essay
everyone
I wrote on
does.
that. Yeah.
Even a rapist.
Right. No, this makes so much sense to me. Like, if you really want to kill all humans, it's because you think humans are truly bad.
Right.
And well, the world will be better without us.
Right.
Just how we want to kill viruses.
Right. There's something good in that motivation. That that person is being motivated by a perception of something good.
Yes, by the
Absolutely.
perception of that it could be better, things could be better. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's interesting that we kind of agree on this, that everybody can have like their own God. Although
it's not just that everyone can, it's that everyone does.
everyone does. Okay, and Christianity, what Christianity is trying to say, like, hopefully people can people should pursue their own gods, and hopefully all these gods are pointing to the same thing. No?
Well, I think that what Christianity wants to say is that Jesus Christ is the God beneath the other gods. Jesus Christ is the beauty beneath the other beauties. Jesus Christ is the truth beneath the truth that you think you're looking for. Jesus Christ is the goodness beneath the good that you're striving for in your pursuit of pleasure or power or money or whatever. So Christianity, it's not saying, it's not encouraging people to worship fame or to worship money. But it does admit that in that worship, in that pursuit, in that desire, there's some kind of connection to God.
Right. That's okay. I was writing my notes and I said, I wrote down that this character, the character of the movie Fight Club, he's like realigned. Like he wakes up from after his apartment blows up, right? He kind of like
He has an epiphany.
Epiphany. Translate epiphany for me.
Epiphania?
No, I mean like explain it.
Oh. like an aha moment.
Aha moment. Okay. He realizes that he has to let go of things in order to like learn and have a better life, right? In rough terms.
He comes to realize that some of the things that he had been worshiping before, like the IKEA catalog and like the furnishings of his apartment, are bullshit.
Bullshit, yeah.
And so he lets go of those gods. He lets go of those objects that he had previously been worshiping.
Okay, and what Christianity is trying to say is like, hey man, you don't have to go live in a house that it's like ugly and you don't have to like destroy.
Well, I think the first thing Christianity would say is high five. Like
for realizing that.
Yeah,
High
because IKEA
that.
is not
God.
Right.
It's not the top. It's not the thing you should value the most.
It's not worth getting out of bed in the morning for.
Right. So high five. Now, what Christianity is saying, secondly, is like, you don't have to become a terrorist. You don't have to like burn your hand on purpose necessarily, although you could, but like, it's not like you have to do all these like terrifying actions. You can just pursue Christ. Is that kind of what they're saying?
I mean, I think that so what's interesting about the burning of the hand and the quote-unquote terrorist actions, first off, you have to remember that those terrorist actions never hurt anyone or killed anyone, right?
Until Bob got killed, correct?
Right, and which was an accident, which was unintended.
Yeah.
Unintended stuff happens all the time. I could take my child to get ice cream and we might die on the way.
Correct.
So what's interesting about that stuff is those practices are kind of Christian. There's practices in Christian tradition and in Christian community that are kind of like the burning of the hand and the terrorist, quote-unquote terrorist acts.
Yeah, okay.
So think about protests.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like what Tyler, what is it called? What is his group called? It's not called Fight Club. There's a different name.
Project Mayhem?
Yeah. Like think about a protest. Think about Black Lives Matter. It's kind of like Project Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying right now, that Black Lives Matter protests is a form of Christianity.
Yeah, it's
and then burning of the hand, it's kind of like asceticism, fasting, going without sleep.
It's like going to the gym and hurting your muscles.
There you go. There you go.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. St. Paul says, "I buffet my body that I might not become its slave."
Ah, that you don't become the slave of your body.
Right.
Right. Like you take some sort of power over
Exactly.
your body.
Mastery.
That's a better
Control.
word.
Yeah.
So
although, see, I think
mastery and control, I think they're the same thing.
I agree.
Okay.
But I think that all of these practices of Project Mayhem are they're analogous to Christian practices.
Okay. Yes, but now the what I'm trying to think, it's because I've had, again, when I went to Colombia this end of May, I had a whole week again of this, like, I remember I told you that I was feeling more, I was getting more feelings of spirituality, and that I'm just going one step at a time.
Yeah.
And you were like, yes, one day after the other, brother, like, just, and you told me that, and I was like I wasn't joking necessarily. I was going down the stairs and I was like, I'm just gonna focus about like going every step, because really I'm feeling very intense right now. But I love it. It feels like hell yeah, it's interesting. And then this feeling keeps up happening, and then I'm like terrified by existence. And and then I had to meet with Blaine, and I was talking to Blaine, started crying sometimes because I just couldn't handle all these things in my head, and my thinking was very disorganized. It was hard to think.
Yeah.
And
do you know why all this is happening? Because you're a spiritual being.
Okay. Yeah, that I mean, okay, can you develop on that? Like, can you say more about that? I know it might be
reality is big, scary, beautiful, uncontrollable, mysterious, too much to handle.
But how is it that sometimes it comes all at once to you, man? It's like I'm like bombarded. Like, I don't even want to pay attention to them, and then it's like I'm being bombarded.
I don't know. But it's like that sometimes. It's not like that all the time.
Right. Sometimes you can handle it. Sometimes it's moderate.
Sometimes you might be bored.
Right. Sometimes you might feel too normal. Right. Okay. And what I was trying to say too is you were before I started talking about this, you were saying something. You were saying.
Well, you were talking about.
Oh, the Project Mayhem. Okay. Yes. So this week and the week after, I had a set of things I was supposed to do, right?
In Colombia.
And here in the U.S., right? Like, remember my exam? Then I was like, man, I had to bomb that exam, and I also cheated partly. I shouldn't have cheated. I should have just bombed it, That's what a man does. That's braver. Just bomb the freaking exam. Don't even worry for cheating. I don't care about the grade. Admit it, right? It's like own your rejection. But anyways, I sort of bombed the exam, and I told you this, and I was like, man, I just couldn't care less. And then it was like, okay, if it doesn't feel good with like my school and my parents maybe that are paying for the school, but it's not the end of the world. Like, I could keep going. But then more things, like I was going to Colombia, and the plan was to take the plane and go to Colombia and blah 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 and pack my bag and all of that. It seemed like I had this voice in my head saying, don't get in the freaking plane. Like, sabotage the whole trip. It was strange. It was like, don't get in the plane, don't get in the plane. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's so stupid. Like, why wouldn't I get in the plane? My parents are waiting for me. I love them, man. Like, so stupid. So I got in the airport. Couldn't think, man. Like, it was the hardest thing to just go through, like, freaking check-in. It was like, how do you handle a freaking phone? I forgot. It was so strange. And then I was like...
But you did it, right?
Yeah, I was like, fuck
That's
this.
good. That's good that you did it.
I was scared as hell.
Because I'm just going to say voice in your head.
Yeah?
Is not the be-all and end-all.
I like that. Thank you. I like that.
Even if it's good, even if it's cool, even if it's It's not the be all and end all. The only be all and end all, or the only ultimate thing, is God.
Okay. Would you change that word? Like, people don't like the word God because it doesn't
Yeah.
say more. It is not satisfying enough. It's like,
Well, yeah, that's because people have all these assumptions in their minds about what God is.
okay,
We need to talk about it.
okay, what about the word experience instead of God?
No, that won't do it. You could say being. You could say goodness. You could say truth, but not experience.
Right, because then even Tyler Durden killing everybody would be okay.
Well, he didn't kill anyone except
Right.
him. He didn't kill anyone.
I mean, blowing up those buildings, man, that's too much. That's
Okay.
far away.
Well, okay.
That's not killing anybody, but it's getting pretty close.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm not wanting to defend
right.
it,
Okay, okay.
but I mean, he didn't kill anyone.
right, right. No, you're so right. That's why it's funny.
Yeah. Had he killed people, the movie would be totally different.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, it'd be problematic.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't really think that it is problematic.
It would be too much Hollywood, I think.
Well, it would just be like, okay, it would be all of a sudden the good guy of the film is bad. And that's a problem.
The good guy of the film?
Yeah.
I don't think most people see him as the good guy. Some people see him as the interesting guy.
He's the protagonist.
Yeah, he's the interesting guy.
Interest is a form of good.
Okay.
In fact, yeah, interest is a form of good.
Interest is a lot like temptation. So I don't know if temptation is always good.
Well, I have a definition of interest. When you find something interesting, it's the call of beauty.
You said that before. Okay. Temptation is the call for?
I mean, temptation is also the call of beauty. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should give in to the temptation.
You're saying is the call of beauty temptation?
Maybe.
Oh,
Because
I think
we've already said. I mean, there's good everywhere. There's good in everything. Like, let's say I'm tempted to cheat on my wife. I shouldn't do that. But the thing that's luring me is something like beauty or pleasure or a sense of connection, and all of those things are good. Doesn't mean that I should give in to the temptation.
Right, right. I see how interesting can be good because I don't think temptation and interest are the same thing. To me, temptation is more. To me, temptation is more like animal.
I don't think that they're the same. I don't think that they're identical, but I think that they both are connected to something that is good.
Yeah, if temptation was.
This is what you were saying earlier. So I'm just helping you be consistent.
Yeah.
It's like the God thing.
I was saying what?
Well, it's like when Donald Trump worships power, he's really worshiping God. He's really.
Oh, okay, you're connected. Yeah, okay, I know how you're.
Or
saying
when a cocaine addict snorts a line of coke, the thing that they're really after is God.
Okay, yeah.
Now, why is that? It's because there's something good in money.
Yeah,
There's something good in cocaine, namely pleasure.
Yeah. Just.
Yeah.
I mean, to like end my thought, it's kind of like I just feel interest is a little closer, or attached with more strings to God than pleasure, than temptation.
Temptation.
Than temptation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I might agree.
Okay. So, and coming back now to this is like, the movie makes a great point. It's like, hey man, let go of the stuff that you don't need, that doesn't matter. Now, it's it was so hard going into that plane. I felt like it was
Oh.
gonna fall. Like I was gonna die in the plane crash. Like my parents were gonna suffer. My dad. It was like, and I was like, fuck it. I mean, if it happens, then like I did what I was supposed to do. I did it out of love.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt
Amen.
okay. So it kind of felt okay.
That's great.
I was like, yeah, it's not like I'm doing this because I'm upset against someone,
Right.
right? And then it was like, and then all these thoughts came to my mind. It's like, okay, it's interesting. I've done this so many times, getting in a plane, thinking that nothing was gonna happen. How foolish!
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, dude, it could happen. Like, I told you this a little bit ago. It's like, man, like it really, I'm not aware of how mortal I am,
Right.
and how things can fall off.
Right.
And that's what Tyler Durden, I think, is trying to say to Jack or Cornelius when he's burning his hand. He's like, one day you're gonna die.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to understand that.
Yes. And that, yes, and that is a form of experience.
You mean?
Well, you were wanting to say that experience is maybe a different word for God.
Yeah.
And I pushed back on that a little bit. But there is something super important about experience. And I think it's that it provides a kind of certainty. It provides a kind of unassailability.
Unassailability.
Yeah, it's unfalsifiable. So like in that moment whenever Jack's hand is being burned by the whatever it is, there's no way he could doubt.
His pain.
Right.
Is the pain of the experience what you're talking about, no?
Yes.
Now, there's no way he can doubt the pain.
Yeah, because that's what he's experiencing.
Okay. But some experiences are easier to doubt than others.
Maybe, but I would say that in every experience there's something in it that is indubitable.
Okay, yeah. I see. And
so I'm just giving you a high five. Experience is very important.
yeah.
You know what? Here's what Aristotle would say. Aristotle would say the reason it's not as ultimate as God is because it changes.
Say that again. The experience is not as ultimate as God because
Yes.
it changes.
Yeah. So
Okay,
the
yes.
fact that experience changes is a telltale sign for someone like Aristotle that it's not ultimate. Actually, so let me do this real quick. So you've probably heard me talk about this before, but Aristotle basically says that there's 3 levels of the good. So if you ask the question, what is good? What is goodness? What is the good? What is that? Aristotle says there's three different kinds, 3 different modes. The most base mode of the good, in other words, the kind that's sort of at the bottom of the list, is utility.
Yeah.
And then he says, and he talks about why that's the least good form of, the lowest kind of good. He talks about why that is. And I could rehearse that right now. But then he says there's a different form of the good that's better than utility. It's called pleasure. And he talks about why pleasure is better than utility, but he says it's not the highest form of the good. And the main reason he says it's not the highest form of the good is that it wanes, W-A-N-E-S. It goes away.
It ends.
It's not constant. It changes.
Okay.
See?
And
I'm saying that that's kind of like experience, I think.
And the third is beauty?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, this is I knew this conversation was gonna be impossible, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump to maybe a different thing.
Great. Last night you were talking about atheism.
Yes. Okay, I got it here. Let's try to connect these two. So, one thing that the movie says, kind of to like finish this part we're saying, this first part or whatever. The movie kind of says that you have to hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler is rock bottom.
What?
Tyler Durden, he is rock bottom. Like he's the bottom of the abyss. Is that the right word? Of the
That is the right word.
Okay.
But you're saying Tyler is rock bottom,
Yes,
or he hits rock bottom?
well, he says Jack doesn't want to, like Marla, hit rock bottom. That she has done it already and he doesn't want to. And he also says
He says that Marla has hit rock bottom?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe
I
like
agree.
Marla
Okay.
has nothing to lose.
Okay.
And he says, yeah, Marla literally he literally says Marla wants to die. The problem is that she hasn't.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Good.
And then he says you don't want to. And then later in the movie when Jack realizes he's Tyler, he's like talking to Tyler and Tyler says, "You're slowly becoming me." Sometimes because you're doubtful, you're still you.
Right.
But you're becoming me.
Yeah.
So what I think he's
Okay.
trying
So
to
in
say
that
is
sense,
you're going rock bottom, but you haven't gotten there yet.
in that sense, Tyler is rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I think Tyler is other things besides just rock bottom. So, for example, Tyler is freedom.
Well, this is the thing when we're talking about how God is the rock in Samuel.
Yes.
In the Hannah's poem,
Yes.
she says
Yes.
God is the rock.
Yes.
So it's kind of like rock bottom, as we've said before, is also the way you get to the top. It's
Absolutely.
Like, it's the path to the top.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, this is very interesting because then should I have sabotaged the whole trip last month? You know? Because
No.
rock bottom would have been, okay, let's fuck everything up.
I don't
Let's
know if
not
that's
go to
rock
the-
bottom. See,
Okay.
that's a great question. What is actually rock bottom?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that is rock bottom.
Okay, maybe rock bottom then.
So
is
I'll give you
that-
just let me throw this out there. Like, true rock bottom is not selfish. True rock bottom
Huh.
is not motivated by. When one truly hits rock bottom, it's not going to damage other people. So, I mean, there's a lot we could say, but I'm not sure that. I don't think that, and that might be where the movie is limited, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that not sabotaging your trip would be rock bottom. Actually, I mean maybe, or maybe it will be in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years you'll find yourself in, or 5 years, 1 year, you'll find yourself in a situation where actually you need to not get on that plane and waste $1,000 or whatever. Maybe, but I don't think that was the case this last time.
I did that when I broke up with my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a trip planned, and I was like, "Fuck it, man! Like,
Yeah.
if I lose my money, I lose it. But I have to do this."
Yeah.
Right. So you're saying rock bottom doesn't always look the same.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And actually, like, true rock bottom involves surrender.
Well, this is what's very interesting, man. You know, now we're talking again about me breaking up with my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
I had this voice in my head, this like annoying, loud voice in my head saying break up with her. Didn't want to. I really didn't want to. Was like, I think this is wrong to break up with her. I think it's not good. You know, I don't think I'm pursuing God. That's why I wanted to come back with her after. But I have to, man. Like I have to, like, this thing is not gonna leave me alone until I like let him do whatever he wants to do, which is break up with her. So I'm submitting there. I feel. I don't know if you think I am.
You're talking about the voice.
I'm submitting to the voice, not to the experience maybe, which is Sergio, you're already in this relationship. You could stay in it and be mature and resolve it without breaking up. You could not waste the money and the intentions you've invested in this trip and this relationship.
Yes. I think that that voice is important. And I think that there's a time and a place to assume that the voice is ultimate, that the voice is God. But at the same time, I think that you also have to be critical of that voice.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that you needed to be critical of the voice in that moment, but now that you've had that experience, now that you've thought back, now that you've reflected back on that experience, now that you've learned some new things, now that we're even talking about it, it's good to be critical. It's good to critically assess that voice. And Genesis 22 is the story about Abraham and Isaac. And a lot of what that story is about, I think, is how can you discern the voice of God?
How can you discern like abstract or
Discern, spot,
spot?
recognize.
Okay. Recognize. Okay.
So,
Okay.
so one of
And
like
where do you think
Gen-
who
it's
says that?
Genesis 22, Abraham and Isaac. But one of the things we're talking about right now is, was that voice that said, break up with your girlfriend, was that the voice of God? That's kind of what we're talking about. And I'm saying, it could have been,
You know, it's so interesting because.
but it's not necessarily.
Okay, that's very interesting because when I was in trip, you know, when I was going to the airport, I was like, cancel. You know, this voice again, loud and annoying, and man, if it was a person, I would have probably punched it. Like I really didn't like it, and then I was like, okay, let's think, let's be critical,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah.
And eventually, it was like, okay, there's actually no like heavy argument. Like my parents are gonna be glad to see me.
Right.
I'm gonna be glad to see them.
Right.
I'm gonna be in Colombia, which I enjoyed to
Right.
some degree.
Right.
I'm gonna see family.
Yeah.
I'm gonna not have to cook for like 2 weeks. That's fucking awesome. You know, it's like
Yeah.
all these things. And then I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a bad reason to go.
Right.
A good reason not to go.
That's good.
And I felt like I submitted. So it's funny because I submitted to a different thing here.
You did.
I didn't submit to my voice because
Right.
I remember thinking this. I was like, what the hell do I know?
Right.
I remember thinking this.
That's good.
So okay, so one can make a case.
That's called self-criticism.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. So one could even make the case. You thought you knew when you broke up with your ex-girlfriend, and you made a mistake with that knowledge. Now you know that you don't know.
Yeah.
That's why you didn't make a mistake again while
Yeah.
canceling that trip.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think you did make a mistake with your girlfriend, but yes.
Okay, we don't know that truly.
Yeah.
I think, or maybe it was good.
Yeah.
Anyways, Blaine says God turns mistakes into love. I'm trying to still.
Oh, that's true also.
I'm still trying to understand that.
That's true also.
I think I do. I think I'm getting the sense of it. Okay,
Yeah.
now maybe moving to the next thing. Okay, so you kind of need to hit rock bottom to realize what is it that matters.
That's one of the points of Fight Club.
One of the points of Fight Club. Is there another point related to rock bottom to you that we should mention?
So it's only that, look, for me, rock bottom, the idea of rock bottom and hitting rock bottom is connected to the idea of surrender, which is like losing control.
To let yourself fall, almost.
Yes.
In the arms of God, you could say.
Yeah, lots of different ways to say it. You could say coming to the end of your rope. In 12-step programs like AA, do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There's a beautiful phrase called the gift of desperation.
Okay.
And that's related.
The gift, the yeah, it's powerful. Desperation,
Yeah. So,
deprivation. It's what leads to desperation. Peterson
Okay.
says,
Okay.
don't underestimate the power of depraving yourself from sex.
Okay.
Because it's going to get you to get up and go find a girlfriend
That's
instead
all.
of watching porn.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
yeah.
But I think that desperation is a little different from deprivation.
Right, it comes after, I would say. But
Yeah.
okay, so.
Yeah, good. I
Ke-
like that. So here's what I'm trying to say. Here's the way I would put it. Like if I were speaking to a Christian audience, I would say that this expresses a deep gospel truth, a deep dimension of the gospel. Okay.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that every single person has to hit rock bottom. Like, I mean, people are very different. And I'm not the Holy Spirit. Like, it would be a mistake for me to insist that everyone I know or everyone in my church or everyone in my family hits rock bottom. No, everyone's different. And people have very radically different journeys. And it may be that not everyone does need to hit rock bottom. I don't know. I think that I do.
Okay, because I feel that I do sometimes, you know.
I think that I need to hit rock bottom in order to find real freedom and in order to achieve happiness. I would say that about myself, but I can't say that about, for example, my wife.
That because it would be kind of like, you know, it's it's like rude or kind of like
Arrogant.
It's arrogant to tell someone
Presumptuous.
and like as if you were, it's
as if you were the Holy Spirit.
And also, it's dangerous to tell someone hit rock bottom. You know,
Absolutely.
You don't know what rock bottom is for them.
Absolutely, really. And also hitting rock bottom is not something that can be forced.
Okay.
You can't make someone hit rock bottom.
Right.
I mean,
no, that is very true. I don't think you can. Okay, good.
But it does express a deep gospel truth.
You want to repeat that truth if you already said it?
I mean, I didn't say it. There's a lot of ways to say it. Jesus says, whoever loses his life will find it. That is almost a description of Fight Club. Whoever loses his life will find it. And whoever keeps his life will end up losing it. Right? This is a paradox. In order to find your life, you have to lose it. That's what Jesus is saying. And that's hitting rock bottom.
When he says find, does he mean something like recognize?
I think he means get it back. Receive it back. It's like if you lose your phone, you're going to be super stressed, and right? And then but then when you get it back, it's like,
I have a phone. Yeah, it becomes a big deal.
Yes, and it's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's like the pearl of great price.
So
you asked me
deprivation.
Yes. So you asked me if there's anything else I want to say about hitting rock bottom. It would just be that not everyone, perhaps not everyone needs to hit rock bottom in the same way. But then secondly, it expresses a deep gospel truth that Jesus expresses when he says, whoever loses his life will find it.
Okay. We can end this part here. I want to take the last 20 minutes and try to talk about this thing. It's just as hard as the other things we've been talking about, I think. But so there's it's hard to start it. There's a thing about in the movie. There's a thing he's trying to remember when he's like he comes to realize. I don't remember how that he's Tyler Durden
at the very end.
No. Even before that, like he slowly realizes until he shoots himself, and he's like, "Shit! Now I am."
He starts to realize that like there's these scenes where he's punching himself
Yeah.
And he throws himself back.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I thought about my first fight with Tyler Durden when
Yeah.
he's fight."
But that's at the
conscious-
very end. I mean, it's in the last 10 minutes, isn't it?
Do you remember when he? No, or maybe 20. He at one point in the movie
Okay.
he's like, one day Tyler was gone. He
Yeah,
wakes up. He's
yeah.
like, one day Tyler was
Oh,
gone.
yeah, and he goes to all those cities.
Yeah, he starts traveling around
Okay.
trying to find Tyler, asking everybody like, "Do you know Tyler Durden? Who's Tyler
Right,
Durden?"
and they're like,
That's you, dude.
Yeah.
But he's so brilliant, Tyler.
Uh-huh.
He's so brilliant that he's like, "I'm gonna come and do all these crazy things. Don't tell me I am Tyler Durden."
right,
And if I ever realize, I'm gonna try to stop you.
right,
So don't let me stop you from Project Mayhem.
right.
So
Oh, okay, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is he starts traveling. He tries to find Tyler Durden. And he starts living as he was seeking something. He starts seeking something with this character Jack.
Yeah,
He's never truly there until this moment. This is why I think that.
interesting.
Because I feel like through the whole movie, he's kind of like this loser, right? Buying IKEA stuff.
Yeah,
Then he finds Tyler. He's still not himself.
Right.
He's just following Tyler. He's just
right.
Tyler's
Yeah, I like it.
little kid, right?
Yeah,
He's just walking behind Tyler.
yeah,
And then when Tyler leaves, he finally becomes self-dependent almost.
self-aware,
Self-aware.
self-mastered,
Yes.
self-developed.
He realizes he has to do something. He starts taking responsibility for the whole thing because
Yeah.
he's like, oh shit, okay, Tyler is not here.
Yeah,
All of this shit is happening, and so I have to do something. I mean, I have to find this guy.
and that is why Jesus had to go away and then give us the Spirit. But keep going. Tyler had to go away
Okay.
for Jack to become responsible.
Yes. Okay.
Jesus
Oh,
had to
that's
go
brilliant.
away.
That's brilliant.
For,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
That
Otherwise,
Jesus literally says, don't hold on to me. Don't you realize I have to go away? Like he says that several times.
Right. Just like your dad has to let you go.
Yeah.
Do your thing, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay, makes so much sense.
Yep.
Now, he is Okay, now he's trying to find this guy, Tyler. Jack is trying to find Tyler, and he's, as you said the other day, that the New Testament wants us to leave. He's leaving expectantly.
Wait, the New Testament wants who to leave?
A while ago, no, to live.
To live, yeah.
Live. You said
Yeah.
the New Testament wants us to live expectantly.
Okay.
As if something was going to happen.
Oh, okay,
That's why I think,
Yeah.
because we live before Revelation. So we're waiting for Revelation to happen. Like, how wouldn't us be expectant of this thing? How
Okay.
we are like attentive technically to this thing.
Attentive is a great word.
According to like the Bible, we're here
We're called to be attentive.
right before Revelation. So we should be paying attention because, man, Revelation is coming. Christ is coming back.
Okay.
Right? So
Okay.
so he's living with that. He's going to all these cities with that mindset, you could say, of I'm trying to find this guy, and I'm trying to resolve this thing that I don't understand, but I'm going somewhere. Like I'm finally driven. He finally becomes driven. This is the first time in the movie when I feel like he's actually driven by himself and not by Tyler or IKEA.
Anything external.
Right. Like he's actually being himself, as I said before.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, and so and I feel, and he says at one point, everything feels like a deja vu.
That's before. That's earlier.
No, this is when he's traveling to all these cities.
Okay.
He's traveling to all these cities, and he's like, everything felt like a deja vu. That's because he was there before
Right.
as Tyler.
Right.
So what's very interesting, I know you've had this, for example, that week in which you felt like you're walking on the moon is related to these events I felt.
Okay.
In these events I felt, again, I felt like it's like I see a lot of deja vus. It's like things make too much sense. They're annoying because they make too much sense. So it's like, when something makes sense, it kind of like talks to you. Like it's like a highlight, right? It calls for is a call for beauty
Yeah.
to some sense.
Yes, yes.
But when there are too many of those things, you're like overwhelmed. Like everything, or too many things
Okay.
make sense, and it's like, well, I don't want everything to make sense. Like
Okay.
I cannot deal with everything.
Right.
Have you felt this in like I want to talk I want you to talk a little more about your experience of that week, like
Yeah. So as I listen to what you just said about too much,
yeah.
you were articulating some kind of displeasure or some kind of pain or something bad.
It's not necessarily bad. It's like, well, yeah, let's say bad.
And
that's a rough term.
And
but
whenever I had these experiences, and they didn't last for a week, I can talk more about it, but I just want to say they weren't bad. Now, they were intense, they were overwhelming, they might have left me exhausted afterward, but they weren't bad. They were awesome.
yes, I'm not saying is bad necessarily. Like I wouldn't say bad, but well, if you're at the gym, well, this is the thing.
Had someone walked up to me and said, "Do you want this to stop?" I would have said no.
Okay, that was me until like the end of May, beginning of June, because it got so intense that I was like, fuck this, man. Like, I don't want to live like this all the time.
And it might be different. Like, I don't think that whatever it is that I was experiencing is identical to whatever it is that you were experiencing.
No.
And, you know, this didn't last for, look, I had a little experience 2 times that lasted maybe an hour or so.
When?
I'm not really sure. When?
Recently?
No. This is what you're asking about.
Okay.
This was probably my junior year of college, probably 1995. And it was after I was leaving a philosophy class, and I felt like I was. I felt like gravity was not real.
Right.
or it was greatly reduced. Like I felt like I was boing.
Yeah.
Like I felt like with every step I took, I was going 30 feet into the air and then coming down softly and bouncing back up. It didn't last a week. It maybe lasted a half hour, and it happened on 2 occasions. And yeah, and here's another thing, another way I think it's different from what you're talking about. This wasn't an intellectual experience. It may have been the product of an intellectual experience.
Yeah.
I think the best word for this is euphoria.
Yeah.
I had a sense of euphoria.
It is somehow euphoric.
So yeah.
Okay. Now, do you feel like things were going slower around you?
I did.
Like
but I loved it.
Yeah, like simply like.
I felt like I was high.
Yeah. It feels like you're high. It does feel like you're high. Do you feel other people were slower? Do you feel more aware of what people were thinking?
So there was no one around me, which is probably important. Like, because I'm not an introvert. I'm an extrovert.
I know.
However, I love solitude. Like, I really love to be alone, because that way I can be with myself.
You can say with God. It's easier to throw away the things that are not God in your head.
Yeah.
When you're alone, I think.
Yeah. And you're not distracted by other people.
Yeah.
So I was alone when this happened. I don't really remember other people. I was walking from the Wagner Hall, which is the philosophy building at UT, to the main building or the tower. So I was walking across campus.
Do you get feeling of deja vu at all, or like meaning in things that you could see or hear, like kind of like if things
again it wasn't so I like this phrase discursive reasoning, and it's connected to Plato's line for me. Discursive reasoning is a kind of, it's like Discursive reasoning, Thomas Aquinas calls it componendo et dividendo. It's whenever your mind or the focus of your attention moves through elements.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're doing a mathematics proof or a logical proof, you have premise 1, premise 2, then a conclusion. And your mind is moving through each one of those things one after the other. This was not like that. This was not like that.
You weren't moving from.
I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. I was not thinking. I was experiencing something, and maybe I was beholding something. Maybe I was recognizing something.
Reacting, maybe. I mean.
I was enjoying something. I was experiencing something.
Appreciating.
I was beholding something, and I was enjoying something.
Okay.
And what was it? It had to do with whatever I experienced and was in fact thinking about in the classroom. It had to do with what the professor was saying.
Was the professor talking about gravity at all?
No.
Okay.
No, this was a philosophy class. Okay. He was talking about philosophy, theology, and God.
Well, okay. Do you, well,
yeah, no, it's a great question.
Okay. Do you think this was announced to you to some sense? You know how Tyler is announced in the movie? Tyler is announced several times with images.
Yes.
Of him that pop out.
He's foreshadowed.
Foreshadowed.
Yeah.
There's like types of Tyler in the movie.
Okay.
Like we were talking the other day.
Yeah.
So, was this event announced to you?
What do you mean announced?
Like foreshadowed.
By what? No. I mean, are you asking if I had experiences in my past that might have been like preliminary versions of this?
That were pointing to this.
Pointed to this in whose mind? Not my mind. So I think I'd have to say no.
Okay.
But I think that I have always been the kind of person who I think that I've had experiences prior to this time that were kind of like this. But much smaller.
In what sense?
Well, I would just say that, and I don't know if I can think of any examples or specific instances, but I think that I've always been someone who feels things deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had an insane desire for meaning.
And how is that related to walking as if you were in the moon?
Because something happened in that classroom that satisfied a deep, deep, deep longing in my soul. It's like it scratched an itch deep in my soul. And when that happened, it made me incredibly happy.
Oh, so what was the thing that happened in the classroom?
I mean, theology and philosophy.
But was it like a specific sentence?
I don't remember. But it was I would say it was a combination of theological truth and some breakthroughs that I was having in my own thinking. Like the professor and the stuff we were reading blew my categories. It caused me to recognize some false assumptions that were holding me in bondage. And when those were smashed, I had a sense of liberation.
Blow the category.
And I can talk more about that. Like I can you want me to say more about that?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of embarrassing. I've never
please.
delved into this at this level before, but
this is so good. This is what I want.
Prior to that class, I thought prior to that class, my assumption, even if I was always a little skeptical of this, but still I thought that this was the right answer.
Yeah.
The assumption is that relativists were bad guys.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
and the good guys are people who believe in quote unquote absolute truth. That was my assumption.
I see
So
what you're
the
saying.
good guys
Okay.
believe in absolute truth. The bad guys are the relativists. That was sort of my assumption. Now I also knew, I was also skeptical of that, but at the same time I thought that was the quote unquote right answer.
What the truth? The truth. All
That the
truth
relativists
is-
are bad guys and the absolute truth people are the good
Yeah.
guys.
And the reason you felt like that.
I know why I felt like that. It's because I grew up in a conservative Christian
No,
evangelical
okay.
home in Texas.
The reason you changed to that, you changed from that to being more relativist.
No, I didn't change to being more relativist.
Okay, you didn't you stopped
Hang on.
hating the relative. I mean,
So look, that is the assumption that was smashed to bits by this class.
okay, it was just like this might not be true. That feeling.
More than that, it's that I now saw I now saw that previous assumption was wrong, and I knew why it was wrong. Because absolute truth and relativistic truth are both human constructs that are relative to what Soren Kierkegaard calls the absolute paradox of the God-man. See, this class was about Kierkegaard and Derrida. Jacques Derrida, the guy who coined the term, the word deconstruction. So it was a postmodern philosophy class.
Okay.
And so the reason why that previous assumption was false is because both absolute truth theories
Yeah.
and relativistic truth theories are both relative to what Kierkegaard calls the absolute paradox.
Are both related to.
They're both relativized by. They're both human constructs.
Oh, they're like.
They're both human constructs.
Okay, they're constructed from that, from the paradox.
They're constructed. It's not that they're constructed from the paradox, it's just that they are both. Neither one of them are absolutely true.
Right.
In the same way that the Word made flesh is absolutely true for Kierkegaard. And so for me, like that was an explosive realization. And to realize that that's what Kierkegaard thought, that was amazing. Because I knew Kierkegaard had to be right. Because he had this, or let me just say, because he had a certain amount of authority. In other words, if someone like Kierkegaard was saying this, I had to take it seriously.
Because he was a trustable person.
Yeah.
Just in the same way we think Peterson and Pajot are
Yes.
trustable.
Yes.
Okay.
Or David Bentley Hart.
Right. I just never.
Or Socrates
remember
or
his
Plato.
name. Correct. Okay. So, I like that.
Yeah. So that's the experience I had in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that was intellectual.
That was intellectual.
And that was even me doing discursive reasoning.
Which
but
meant like interacting with the.
It meant thinking.
Meant thinking.
Reading stuff, listening to the sentences coming out of the professor's mouth, thinking about them.
Participating with your thoughts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then the experience that I had afterward, as I left the classroom and walked back to the main building,
was pure.
It was euphoria.
Yeah, it was like, it's like you lose your mind. Yeah, this honestly,
I did lose my mind.
Yeah, you lose your mind
Yeah.
and everything it's like you have to relearn a lot of things.
Well, yeah.
You said it blew away
That's
my
right.
categories. This has happened to me a few times.
That happened to me twice, and it's the best thing I've ever experienced.
Right. Okay.
I mean, literally, that is why I did a PhD, is because there was something about that experience that I needed more of.
Yeah. So, okay. Now, that's very interesting because I felt the same thing. It's kind of like it breaks down your models, right? Your categories, and then this is
See, I knew the categories were bullshit at some level, but I didn't know.
you weren't able to
I didn't
see
know
it.
why, and I didn't know what was better. I didn't know what the alternative was.
Okay, and do you know now?
Yeah, I think I said it. Like that thing about the absolute paradox in
Oh,
Kierkegaard.
that's the antidote.
That's the alternative.
That's the alternative. Okay, right? Because that's what was so interesting with these experiences is that I, especially with people, it was so hard because I would look at people. In several times that this has happened in my life in the last 2 years, I've looked at people and talked to people, and it's like, you're so complex, man. Like, I cannot put you in a box.
Right.
I cannot handle talking to you because you're not just a man or woman. You're not just a
Right.
person with this height. You're not just a student. You're not just.
You're a spiritual being.
Yeah, he becomes like so
That's what I meant earlier.
stimulating that I can't handle with people, and I have to kind of like, this is what I do when these things happen. I try to like not try. What has happened is I try to be by myself and think, because it's like I lost my mind, so I have to get it back, and I feel like I need to get it back. And then I slowly start to making sense of the world because I get hungry and sleep, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to eat and I have to sleep
Yeah.
and I have to shower,
Yeah.
and then you start like all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, yeah, and I have to leave in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
But for me, that's also what running is like. Running is a way for me to have a mental vacation. It's kind of like sleeping in a weird way.
It's like meditation.
That's exactly what it is. It's meditation plus sweat, which is a great combination.
Plus exercise, yes. Plus sweat, plus effort,
Yeah. Yeah.
plus not letting your body take control of you.
Yeah. But yeah, meditation.
It's kind of like a meditation, yeah. Especially because
See, meditation
breathing is
isn't
important.
discursive reasoning. That's what a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Meditation is actually, it's precisely not engaging in discursive reasoning.
And nevertheless, you get interesting thoughts as you're meditating.
Well, it's a different kind of activity of the mind. It's a
Yes.
different. What the word that Plato uses for it, in my opinion, which is on Plato's line, is noesis. I think a good word for it is mindfulness. So the Greek word nous, it means mind or intellect. Mindfulness is a good word, because if you're practicing mindfulness, that is not the same thing as quote unquote thinking or engaging in discursive reasoning. No, mindfulness is it's more like awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like attention, awareness.
Yes, attention.
It's like attention.
So I think we're kind of saying the same thing. I mean,
So I guess, maybe to say the last thing here, last night you said only a true Christian can be an atheist.
yeah, well, see, this is what we should have started talking about a half hour ago.
But
Yeah.
maybe we can at least plug it into this, which is what I feel like we're saying is that someone who...
And I also said maybe a Jew, maybe a Muslim.
Oh,
I said that.
I like you said that.
I said that last night.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So only, let's say Christian for the sake of the
Okay.
sentence.
Okay.
So only a true Christian can become an atheist. What I think this means is that if you become a true Christian, you're going to be pursuing the truth, right?
Yeah.
Now, that means you don't know the truth.
Yes.
That means you don't know God.
Yes.
That means you're, even though, you might even think that there's no God, but you live as if it could be one. There could be one.
I like that. I think the last thing you said isn't quite what I mean.
That there's almost no God? Almost like if there's no God?
So, yeah.
Because, okay.
I don't disagree with it. It's just not what I mean.
Okay, can you say what you mean right now?
So I think like one way to say it is to think about the Buddhist maxim, kill the Buddha. If you find the Buddha, kill it. Have you ever heard that?
No.
it's the idea that if you think you've found the Buddha, you're most certainly wrong.
Right.
So kill it.
And that's what an atheist does.
I know, but only I know.
And
That's true. That is what an atheist should do, but it's almost impossible.
right. They still pursue something. Right.
And so many times an atheist takes himself to be rejecting something that's actually not God.
Say that again?
So many times an atheist
yeah.
takes himself to be rejecting something that's actually not God. So if I were to say to you, hey, I don't believe in an old man in the sky, I'm an atheist. No Christian believes in an old man in the sky. That's not God that you're rejecting. What you are rejecting is an idol or a false God.
Right. So
good job.
So only a true Christian does that. Only a true Christian is good at rejecting everything that has been previously put on the top instead of the one true God.
Yes, that's right.
So
that's right.
That's true atheism. It's kind of like
that's right.
Okay, but
that's right.
It's interesting because what the atheists that say the modern atheists, that the people we see today, that they hate God. What happens is that they seem to like not wanna put anything on the top. At least they don't admit to it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure that's possible.
That's not possible, but
they don't know it's not possible. They're acting like it is. So the next I put this on Twitter the other day. The next time I walk into a bar and someone says to me that they're an atheist, I'm going to say, "Oh, so I take it that you deny the existence of being, right?" And I'm just going to listen to what they say.
They're probably going to ask, "What are you talking about?"
And I'll walk them through it. So you're telling me that you don't believe in God, that you think that there is no God, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so one of the ways that the smartest people in the history of the world have described God is being. So are you willing to say that you don't believe being exists?
No, they're not, because they love crystals and meditation and all that crap.
Anyway, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not sure it's possible to deny the existence of being. But that is what it. But that's exactly tantamount to denying the existence of God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably impossible to deny the existence of God. In the exact same way.
What do you mean with being?
I gotta go.
Okay. That's awesome. I liked it. I liked the conversation.
Thank you.
It was good, man.
I love you. It's good,
Me
good
too.
to be with you.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's intense.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the True Curiosity Podcast. Please leave a comment, since your feedback could make this podcast grow bigger and thus help it bring more light to its listeners. And also subscribe if you want, so we can hopefully meet again on a future episode. Goodbye and stay curious.